Hi, thanks for joining a new video. Today, we're unboxing the realme GT8 Pro. Let's begin. The initial price for this device has been set at 18,999 pesos. In Mexico, this amount translates to approximately $1,040. Although keep in mind that the pricing here is different from what you might find elsewhere. Now, let's take a closer look at what is included in the box. Because we are dealing with a flagship model that, it seems, hasn't yet adopted the trend of minimizing the contents of the packaging. At least that's the impression it gives, as the box doesn't appear to be particularly thin. Let's open it. As you see, the box announces their collaboration with Ricoh GR, a camera brand. I'll show you a camera from them soon so you can get an idea. For the moment, let me take a look at what's inside this box here, because the first thing that we come across is this kind of envelope box where everything you might need is likely to be included. Here we have the documentation, the paperwork of a lifetime, as they say. There's not a whole lot to show in this section, but next we discover these items, which are a couple of screws. In just a moment I will explain what they are used for, in case you're not yet familiar with this particular model, because it's interesting, it comes with 2 screws, which is something quite unusual. And naturally, if it includes screws, it should also come with a screwdriver, which is exactly what we have here. This is something you don't often find in a smartphone box, yet it is included here. Additionally, it comes with this entirely opaque black case. I believe it will complement the color of the cell phone nicely, but we will find out shortly. For now, that's everything that is included here in total. Let's take out the cell phone, because this is definitely going to be a highlight. Let's take off its cover so you can get to know it. And here's the design. Boy, is it peculiar. Here you're already seeing where the screws are, right? It comes with 2 screws already in place. Screws that came in the box are a spare in case you lose them, because this piece will be interchangeable. Look, here I have several of the pieces that we could put in place. I'll use this section to alter the device's appearance. So, it's a phone with customizable aesthetics. This is exciting because we often dislike the factory design, but here we can swap modules. I don't have price or availability info yet, so stay tuned for the review where I'll clarify that. Wow, this cell phone is truly unique in this aspect. However, as you will notice, the box includes more items. Here, you will find the tool that is specifically used to remove the SIM card tray. Additionally, it includes a USB-A to USB-C cable. While this isn't the most cutting-edge option, it's nice that it's included with the package. Alongside the cable, there's also a charger. In this review unit I have, it features a European charger. However, it should come with an adapter suitable for your region. The charger itself offers an impressive 120 watts of power, which is quite intriguing. Alright, so here's what we have inside the box. How about we hold on to all this content so we can provide you with a more detailed look at the phone. Then you can share with me your thoughts and feelings about it, whether they are positive or negative. We already have the device ready here so we can get to know it. Let me tell you about its specifications. It comes with a thickness of 8.2 millimeters and weighs 218 grams. For a flagship device, the truth is that it is not so heavy, although it does not seem to want to compete for being the thinnest or any of those weird trends. It comes with IP68 and 69 for an excellent level of protection against water. Although the front comes with Gorilla Glass, I find that the level of protection of the screen does not correspond to a flagship. It is perceived much simpler in that sense. We will have to take care of the falls and scratches. The screen is a spectacle, offering 6.79 inches in Quad HD resolution. The display resolution is 3136 x 1440 pixels with a 144 Hz refresh rate, but noted actually, it will certainly provide us with a range that varies between 60 and 120. If you prefer the higher rate, you have the option to manually select the applications you wish to reach 144 Hz. Similarly, the resolution will be reduced to Full HD via software, but you can choose to switch to the highest resolution. For instance, when you're viewing photos in the gallery, the screen can automatically increase its resolution to the maximum level. This approach helps in managing the battery consumption more effectively, ensuring that the device remains efficient while providing optimal display quality. This display reaches a peak brightness of 7000 nits. It is really very bright. Although 7000 nits when you watch HDR content globally would reach 2000 nits, which either way is still a very good thing. And it comes with several artificial intelligence options to optimize the way you view content. They all come turned off because they will drain your battery, but you can turn them on if you want. We also find stereo sound with a speaker on the bottom, another speaker on the top, that also brings out its audio through the headphone area for calls. As a first impression, it seems to me a well-balanced sound. The bottom speaker is the one that has a little more presence in the bass frequencies, but I like that the secondary speaker does have bass presence. unlike other secondary speakers that completely forget the bass frequencies. So the sound I think is fine. The front camera will be 32 megapixels with aperture f2.4, although in this case with fixed focus. I think in that respect it disappoints, and note here the results. The preview is still not so optimized, although after taking the picture it does a good job. In fact, in conjunction with the Pro XDR screen, is going to show us a very good image quality, allowing us to illuminate more intensely some areas for more realism. On the back there's a 50 megapixel ultra-wide camera with a f2 aperture, but it has a fixed focus. The main camera is 50 megapixels with an f1.8 aperture and features autofocus. Lastly, the telephoto camera is 200 megapixels with an f2.6 aperture, offering approximately 2.7 times optical zoom. This setup seems unusual, especially since it's a collaboration with a camera brand. The fact that we see a fixed focus on the ultra-wide camera and a rather limited optical zoom, even though it has a 200 megapixel sensor, leads me to believe that the results might not be as spectacular as one would hope. However, let's take a moment to look at the examples. Here, you can see the ultra-wide camera in action. Honestly, it does look quite good. Despite the fixed focus for wide scenes, it obviously doesn't affect the quality and it looks really impressive. The main camera provides good results and I appreciate the consistent color it delivers. It allows you to crop, including to 35mm, while preserving optical quality. Next, we have 48mm, which also involves cropping to the main sensor. Then we move to a 72mm photo that appears quite good. Here's something interesting. The interface indicates 3x, suggesting this is the lens, but in reality, the lens is actually 65mm. For some reason that isn't entirely clear, the manufacturer doesn't allow you direct access to that specific lens. However, around this point, you're going to notice the camera making the switch. It's just an interesting detail to observe. Now, take a look here. With 144mm or 6x zoom, it appears quite good. And even at 12x zoom with 289mm, it remains visible, though it starts to look slightly blurry, almost as if there's a bit of movement. In addition to that, it continues to provide us with results that are more or less satisfactory. However, it is becoming increasingly noticeable that slight movement it might eventually exhibit. You even notice that it allows you to go up to 120x digital zoom, but there you're relying a lot on artificial intelligence, and having a shot with a little more movement than I like, the results can look a little strange. I would say that up to 12x the result is very good. So the medium distance zoom is good, but it's not up to par with total cameras, flagships. What's interesting here is that this camera, as I was anticipating you, comes in collaboration with Ricoh. So you can either scroll down the shutter to access this mode, or just press the special mode and notice that the shutter changed its shape. Because so is the shutter of Ricoh cameras. Specifically when talking about the shape, because the color is different. Let me give you a bit more context about these cameras, because these cameras are popular for street photography, when you prefer not to lug around a bulky, cumbersome camera. So that's why this brand has become so popular for offering compact cameras with good image quality. So you realize by now that for purely urban photography, zoom is not one of its major ambitions. In fact, this camera comes with this fixed lens, no variable zoom. So I think this helps you understand a little bit more what the focus is going to be, because really, this camera is going to be a very good quality camera, but it's not going to be a zoom specialist. I believe its primary focus translates well. We are here because in the Ricoh mode, for instance, if you decide to remove all the artificial intelligence capabilities that the device might possess, especially if you are someone who prefers much more natural-looking photos, then you can achieve something like this. Additionally, the interface has been optimized by Ricoh. Take note, for example, of how we have this button designed to hide any sort of distractions and simply maintain a reference to Ricoh's flagship focal lengths, such as 28 or 40mm. We can hide it again. Here are the zoom controls. There's the snap function, which fixes focus at set distances. For instance, it adjusts focus to 1 meter, staying fixed. The same applies for 2.5 meters, 5 meters, or infinity focus, or you can deactivate fixed focus. Let's just say that is a rather interesting feature, one that I hadn't really seen on other cell phones before. Over here, we will also discover another button. This button is going to reveal some color style presets. These elements come as part of a collaboration with Ricoh. And naturally, we have the option to customize each of these filters with many additional parameters. However, we will also have access to the Pro mode. This mode is already more traditional for smartphones, offering various manual parameters. That's the camera experience with Ricoh. Here are some photos I took using Ricoh mode. The watermark shows them as 50mm photos, but I shot from different distances. Notice how the colors are more muted than the main camera. In fact, even compared to real life, I perceive these colors a little less saturated than I should have. But hey, for anyone who enjoys this type of photography, you can take advantage of it either way. It also has these other presets for photography styles where the handling of shadows is important. and for video recording. Note that it will allow us to get even up to 8K. The front camera can do 4K at 60 FPS, performing well at 30 FPS, or 4K up to 120 FPS with both main and telephoto cameras, or at 60 FPS including ultra-wide. The front camera also supports 4K at 60 FPS, performing excellently. The battery is going to be another one of the most remarkable features, as it boasts a capacity of 7000 mAh. This is divided into two cells, and it supports 120 watts charging with a charger that comes included in the box. Additionally, it supports 50 watts wireless charging and also includes reverse wireless charging capabilities. It runs on Realme UI 7, which is based on Android 16 and is inspired by liquid glass. However, to be honest, there aren't that many liquid glass elements present in this operating system. In this area, we might use the close button as a reference, but other pop-up menus will appear entirely solid. Another place where I noticed some liquid glass is within the theme section, where you can observe how they even managed to reflect on the button. I really wish that the entire operating system functioned in this same manner, utilizing these reflections and transparencies, because it truly looks amazing. However, it's something that you still don't see applied to the majority of the user interface yet. Of course, it will feature many AI functions which are increasingly common. Performance-wise, it offers 16 GB of RAM and 512 GB of storage, plus the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for benchmark enthusiasts. Here are the scores. Geekbench single-core hit 3,574 points. Multi-core 10,502 points. But check out Antutu, nearly 4 million, specifically 39,38,817 points. Impressive. I was very surprised by the power that this device has. It will be one of its strongest points. But well, in due course, we will do the corresponding tests when we launch the video review. For now, we have reached the end of this unboxing. I hope you liked it. If so, you know you can tell us, and see you next time.